Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your host, Katie Comer.
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome back to Hope After Addiction. We are so happy that you've joined us today. Co-host Chelsea.
Hello.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
How's your summer?
Busy.
Full-fledged summer?
You'll know why I'm laughing in a minute.
That's right.
It is, yeah. When you're watching this, if you're watching it, we're in the middle of summer. And so, you never really know how busy you're going to be until like you're in it. And I knew like looking into my summer plans, I was like, okay, this week's busy, this week I have off, but then somehow it ends up getting busy. And so I love it. I mean, it keeps my kids entertained.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets kind of busy. VBS, vacation, all the things.
Yes.
Camps.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have several camps this summer,
Oh.
which is good for them. I mean, they get, keep them busy.
That's right.
Helps me.
Yes.
So they're not
Yep.
bored. Mom, I'm bored. What do I
Uh-huh.
do? Play.
Yes.
Go outside. Do
Use
stuff.
your imagination.
I know. Kids these days, man. Love them. But yeah, so is your summer busy? Or do y'all feel like...
Our summer's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you're going to Ecuador,
We
too,
are going
so.
to Ecuador. So really gearing up for that.
Yeah.
Just lots of stuff. We were looking at a date for another ministry that I'm involved with, and we're like,
Yeah.
it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I call it a crazy chaos. A good chaos is what
Yeah.
I like to call it, to remind myself it's good chaos. But
Yeah.
sometimes I crave simplicity.
Yeah. Trying to get y'all involved. So we were talking about this before the podcast started. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a comment section. Comment your crazy busy schedules for the summer. What are y'all looking forward to? Just to get y'all involved. We'd like to see that. So speaking of busy, that's why I laughed. We are talking about busyness on this podcast, the downfalls that it can create in your life of busyness, which when we thought about this topic, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Do we have enough material for this? She was like, yes. Yes, we do.
Yep.
And so I like really sat down and thought about it. And I do have some, but I'm really interested in some of the stuff you've learned over the years in busyness and the downfalls and your situations and your walk and your journey and what it's created. So I'll start out by asking you, what's one of your biggest things that you've learned in the importance of not being so busy?
This is a big one, and we do a lot of retreats and just counseling. And I am one that has always poured myself to a fall into busyness because I was too scared to be with myself and my thoughts. And so John's first stint at rehab, I worked myself sick. I think I said before, it was 60, 70-hour weeks. I took as many clients as I could get. I made myself as busy as I could because I did not want to face the pain and the hurt that I had dealt with. That is not okay. And actually, busyness is a trauma response. And so when we go through something, we throw ourselves into busyness because we're not ready to face it. We don't want to face it. We're scared to face it because it hurts too bad. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to sit in that and feel it. Jorian and I and Katie, we were talking earlier about I'm an introvert. It took me a long time to figure that out. But my whole life I ran. I made myself busy. And it took me a while to learn that it's okay to be alone. But I had to go through a lot of healing to be in that place. Now, I love to be alone.
Yeah.
I crave it. And a few years ago, John asked me one day, it made me laugh. He said, he's extreme extrovert, as y'all know. He said, Chelsea, do you think I'm becoming an introvert like you? I said, no, babe. I was like, you have done so much work to heal and to love who you are. You're not afraid of you anymore. You're not afraid to sit here with your phone not ringing or going off. You're okay to sit still and just be. And with busyness, there is a movement in the U.S. right now with simplicity. A lot of times in motherhood, it's more of that movement, let's slow down. Let's be still. And so, we do a lot of travel overseas, and America is the number one country that gives you a badge of honor for being busy. And it makes us feel accomplished and worthy the busier we are. And so there is a movement to slow down and to be slow. In the imagery, I had a friend reading a book to me yesterday in the chair, and it was so sweet. And it's funny because Katie and I had talked about busyness, and she was like, do we have enough on this? And I was like, girl, you'll never guess what my friend Tiffany just read. She was like, you got to listen to this on busyness. And I was like, all right, God. But I'm a gardener, of course. And so there's days that I'll look out at my plants and I'm like, man, they're a little wilty over there. But it's because I haven't taken time to water them. You water them and y'all, within an hour, they're perked up, they're happy. And I was like, that's us. Like, we are that flower. And if we don't take time to pour in, to water us, to nourish us, we wilt. We're depleted. We don't even have the space to heal, to deal with other people if we don't take that time. I don't love who I am when I'm busy. I don't love the way that I love others when I'm busy, or the intentionalness that I take with others when I'm busy, because I've got too much other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And that was, I have so much right here, but I don't know. What's your...
Yeah. So I was sitting down. I was just like really trying to focus on it because I never really thought about it. I don't know. It's just not something I ever really thought about. I don't know if it's because I'm not busy, which is not true because I just got done telling you about how busy we're going to be. So, but I did write a few things that I know that it does for me when I sit down and really think about the busyness in my life. I know that I get distracted from my Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
And so I will get busy and I will dwell and do things that are not that they're not for God's glory.
Yeah.
I mean, because being a mom and loving my children, I mean, that can be for God's glory. But I do think in the busyness, sometimes I neglect sometimes what's important, and that's getting in the Word.
Yeah.
That's spending time with God. And so that's something, as I was like preparing for this, that kind of, and listen, God was like, well, you do get busy because you don't open this enough.
Yes.
So there's some busyness there.
Yeah.
And that's where I think for me personally,
Yeah.
it can cause a distraction from knowing my Heavenly Father more. And that's ultimately what we were put here for, is to know Him more and be more like Him. And so I think God has been super sweet to give me a season where I'm not super busy.
Yeah, so good.
Where I'm not working. I've been allowed to be a stay-at-home mom, but my kids are at school.
Yeah.
And so I do have a season where I'm not as busy. And so maybe that's where it came from. Do we have enough material? Because I'm not as busy in my season. Yeah. So I really can focus on the good, which I love. But I know this season coming up with summer and the kids being home, this is where I can get distracted. And so really trying to hone in on what God has for me this summer, pouring into my kids, letting them see me being in the Word. I think that's super important. Let them watch me do my devotion, have them do their devotion with me. So Him teaching me, well, you might not be busy, but when you are, this needs to take a priority, right?
Yeah. Like
Being
your
with
first
me.
slice of pie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think for me, just the distraction, the busyness, the downfall of busyness for me personally is the distraction away from Jesus.
Yep. And that's what the enemy uses. I mean, the busyness is a huge ploy of the enemy to use us to take our eyes off of Jesus, to take our eyes off the Word.
Yeah.
That was another thing, and I've shared it before, but it actually takes 15 minutes for creativity to be allowed. When do we ever sit in 15 minutes? If we have any moment, I'm like, pick up my phone. Like, let me do this, let me do that.
Yeah.
And I find when I force myself to be still, whether it be in my garden or walking around the field, that is finally when Jesus talks to me. But it's not Him, it's me positioning myself to hear Him.
Love that.
And I'm like, man, like this silence, and I open myself to having that. And a good book, if anybody likes to read, but Lisa Turkhurst, The Best Yes. And it's one of her lines in there. It says, if you're saying yes to everything, you can't give your best yes to anything. And I have to remember that if I'm saying yes to so much, like I'm not being intentional and giving my best yes to anything. And a lot of y'all are in that season where you're extremely fragile and you're trying to heal. And that is your biggest, I guess, priority right now is healing in this season. And so I urge my girls, because a lot of them are like, I'm going to work more. I'm just going to do this. And I'm like, you need to sit at home by yourself on a weekend, you and Jesus. And I was like, I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but the healing that's going to come from that is, Jesus put me in a house for 3 days with snow in Savannah. We don't get snow in Savannah.
Yeah, no, you don't.
3 days straight
Wow.
by myself in the house. Incredibly painful, but incredibly beautiful.
When you said that about healing, when you listening, if you're in this fragile state of your healing journey, of your loved ones in rehab, your loved ones out of rehab, maybe your loved one passed away just from addiction. Something that I wrote down that just the busyness can, like you said, can cause us not to focus on the healing of ourselves. And so I had that written down. So when you said that, I thought that was beautifully said. So really take the time you can distract yourself with things that don't even seem bad, right?
Oh yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I mean, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing work, I'm going out and hanging out with friends, community. If you listen to our last podcast, we talked about the importance of community, and that's all great things.
Yeah.
But also making sure you're not staying so busy that you're not focusing on healing for yourself. Now, some of the busyness might be focusing on yourself, and you need to take time for that, you know?
Yeah.
But like you said, being still before the Lord is a great healing for yourself. And that's hard for a lot of people, including myself, just being there.
Yeah. Being present.
Being
still.
present and being alone. 3 days alone, that's a lot.
That's a lot. It was, man, I got a few blogs out of it.
You
because
did.
God was
I
like,
know.
here, you're meeting with me for the next 3 days. To where it'd been like 20 years since we'd had snow. Most of the kids had never even seen snow. But I'm often reminded of this with Mary and Martha. And I am so often the Martha. Like, even when we have people at the house, I have to remind myself, I'm like, stop working and enjoy your company. Like, don't be that person. And it's like, I need to be that person that's ready to sit at Jesus's feet. Cody Carnes' Nothing Else, that song, it's so good if y'all are looking for a song. And it's like, just sit at my feet. Like, slow down long enough to just sit in my presence. And simple things like, I'll have tea in the morning. And then, as every mama says, you get back to it and it's cold. It's like, take 10 minutes to sit down and drink your tea.
Yeah.
Because it's, on a deeper level, psychologically, our body goes into a constant fight, flight, or run response, pretty much. So our bodies are always fighting inside when we're constantly in that. And those times where we're still, where we sit down and drink our tea, even when I eat, I'm a cosmetologist. So meals for me are like 3 minutes, if that. And it's just, and I'm scarfing my food down if I even get to eat. And I'm like, just slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down. And it is amazing.
Not only could you choke.
Exactly.
But it's
we're to get that de-choker that Adam and John got.
Yes.
We need to start
Like
carrying
that.
that with us.
Maybe they'll sponsor us like that.
Exactly right. John's like, did they get me?
One thing when I was thinking about busyness and the Bible, and I mean, the most ultimate person that you can think of is God.
Yeah.
And God rested when he was in creating the earth. I mean, he was creating the universe. He was creating it all. God rested. And so the importance that they made sure to mention that he rested on the seventh day, right? Like,
so good.
that is important.
Yeah. And urges us. Like, that is a command.
There is an importance. And, we talk about having a rest day within the week, because God rested as well. It's important. It's like a command, for us to have that rest day. And so it's important. God did it. So we need to do it.
Yeah. And in Matthew, that's where he says, come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest. Like, he says, come to me in this season, in this heaviness, in the pain, and I will give you rest. And he does. I'm going to tell y'all that 3 days in Savannah, snowed in at my house.
You were rested.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, how am I at such peace right now? And it was him.
Oh.
Because I sure shouldn't have been, because John was out doing things he shouldn't have been. And I mean, he just met me right there because I met him. And I always say, like, God's not talking to me, or God's not. And I'm always reminded, it's like, well, you're coming to the table, but are you bringing your fork to eat? Like, are you slowing down long enough to bring your fork where you can actually get what he wants to give you?
Get the meat of what he's really wanting.
Yes. Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Well,
Stay unbusy.
busyness. The downfall of busyness. I'm glad we talked about it because it made me really think, especially leading into the season of busyness I'm about to take.
Yeah.
There is a big, it can be nice to kind of keep the kids entertained, to be busy, I will say.
Sure.
But there can be definitely downfalls to it. And so it's a great reminder for me. I hope it's a great reminder for you.
Yeah.
The downfalls of busyness. You need to focus on your healing. And sometimes that's just resting in the word, resting in front of God and sitting at his feet. And so we hope that encourages you to do that in your season, in your healing journey. So thank you so much for listening to us. If you are watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you want to follow us on our social medias, we're on Instagram and Facebook. That's where you're going to get some important dates. What we do hope after addiction family nights that are going to be coming up. So you're going to get dates for that. We hope that you have a great week and don't be so busy.
That's right.
Have a good week.